Is the Parthenon really in Athens? One could argue not really. Hello and welcome back to the Definitely Greece channel. This video is part 1 of the 4-part mini-series on ancient Greece. But before you hit exit, this is not just for the history lovers. This is to inspire your next trip to Greece and teach you some really quirky fun facts that you may didn't know. If you're new over here, Definitely Greece is a luxury travel company, but during this very difficult period for travel, we thought to bring Greece closer to you through our videos. So let's dive into it. So just a quick introduction to this amazing marvel of the ancient world. The Parthenon took 7 to 8 years to build, and that was around 430 BC. The reason why the Parthenon is so important is because it was built during a time that the Athenian civilization was booming and flourishing. That's the 5th century BC, which you may remember better from this guy, Pericles, who was the emperor of Athens at the time. It's important to understand that the Parthenon was the pinnacle of ancient Greek architecture and the center point of Athenian religious life. It was dedicated to the goddess Athena, and a huge celebration in her name would take place every 4 years, which is depicted on the beautiful frieze around the Parthenon. Now, some cool facts. Back in the day when the Parthenon was first built, a giant statue of Athena the Nike made out of gold and ivory used to adorn its interior. However, and sadly, the statue does not survive today as it was destroyed later on. Another interesting fact is that the Parthenon actually has hardly any straight lines. The reason why is to counteract some optical illusions that appear when a structure this big is built. During the 40-plus-year-old reconstruction and renovation of the Parthenon, we have actually realized that the artistry and tools that the ancient Greeks used to build it might have actually been superior to what we're used to today. So now you may wonder, this monument has survived 2,500 years of history. What were its uses? As we said before, its first use was intended to be the center point of Athenian religious life. Famously, even Pericles himself was only allowed to climb up to the second step, and only a few very select priests were allowed to go into its interior. So don't be fooled by some pop culture depictions or video games like this. However, the Parthenon's importance lies on its uses in the later years. For a few years during the Delian League, that's when city-states like Athens and Sparta, that were traditionally not the best of friends, decided to join forces. The Parthenon served as a treasury and one of the world's first banks, you could say. Later on, the Parthenon would be transformed into a Byzantine church, Catholic church, mosque, and unfortunately, as an ammunition storage depot. You know where this is going, right? So before we go any further with the amazing miracle of the Parthenon, drop in the comments below what ancient structure or archaeological site you're looking forward to visiting the most in Greece, and check the description below because we have a personalized little gift for you. Which brings us to the damage. It would be impossible to talk about the history of Parthenon without mentioning the many events that have scarred and determined this building's fate. It's very interesting to consider how this monument only took 7 to 8 years to build, yet over 40 years to restore. And we can only hope that the restoration is close to the horizon. Unfortunately, the biggest structural damage to the building that almost destroyed it and demolished it was caused in the 1600s, when during the Ottoman rule of Greece, the Parthenon was used as an ammunition depot, and during a battle with the Venetians, a Venetian cannonball fell through its roof and set off the explosives inside. Since the late 70s, the Parthenon has been in a near constant state of restoration. The incredible complexity by which the ancient temple was built, including iron clamps placed in between the columns to seismically proof the building, has made it incredibly hard to put the pieces back together. In many ways, what has made the Parthenon so incredibly unique, every single piece of marble perfectly crafted to fit the next, has also been its biggest challenge to restoration. However, The biggest real damage to the Parthenon did not happen by accident, but intentionally. In the early 1800s, a British aristocrat known as Lord Elgin was stationed in Greece as the ambassador of the Ottoman Empire from Britain. His admiration of the ancient Greek world was unfortunately what would lead to the Parthenon's biggest damage, as he would illegally try to obtain as many sculptures from the Parthenon as possible. Lord Elgin would personate the Ottoman authorities in Athens at the time to issue a firman, or a warrant, to remove certain unimportant rocks from the Parthenon and the Acropolis site. As you can imagine, this is a point of great contention and debate. However, most recent studies and modern historians agree that the warrant was issued with the assumption that the rocks that would be removed would indeed be unimportant, as they were left over from previous restoration efforts. During the looting from Lord Elgin, a lot of the sculptures would get damaged, and almost the entirety of the 500-foot-long beautiful frieze that would adorn the Parthenon's interior was taken. While in Britain, the statues would almost be destroyed again, as Lord Elgin's idea of restoring the sculptures almost ruined them. A lot of the Parthenon marble pieces Lord Elgin was intended to restore by filling up the missing pieces. Luckily for this incredible artwork, to recreate the missing pieces, Lord Elgin wanted to hire the famous sculptor at the time, Antonio Canova. However, Canova refused to take the job, saying it would be a sacrilege for any man to touch them with a chisel. Later on, Lord Elgin would find himself in financial troubles and having spent the equivalent of $1 million to acquire the Parthenon marbles, he attempted to sell them to the British government. And the British government would accept his offer. Therefore, you will only be able to see the majority of several parts of the Parthenon, including its beautiful frieze at the British Museum. For many long years, the Greek people have advocated and fought for the return of the Parthenon marbles, as it's the most important national monument. During this time, the new Acropolis Museum was built in an effort to persuade the British government to return the Parthenon marbles to their rightful home. You can find more information about the Acropolis Museum here. And although this promise has been made and broken way too many times, we still hope that one day these beautiful ancient artworks will be repatriated. So wait, we don't want to finish this story on a negative. There is a lot of good news. Is the Parthenon really in Athens? One could argue not really. But that's not only because the Parthenon marbles are now in the British Museum. As we said in the very beginning, the Parthenon was the pinnacle of Greek architecture. This has inspired so many different architectural styles, such as the neoclassical, federal style, and naturally Greek revival. During this difficult time for travel, it may be impossible to visit Greece, but rest assured, no matter which part of the world you're in, there is a little Parthenon hiding there. For example, in the United States, places like the Lincoln Memorial, the Capitol, or the Supreme Court are all incredibly beautiful buildings, inspired by the same architecture that inspired the creation of the Parthenon. The same applies to places like the Brisbane City Hall in Australia, and ironically, even the British Museum. In the words of a famous 19th century French engineer, the Parthenon represents the supreme effort of genius in pursuit of beauty. So although borders remain closed, the echo of the beautiful ancient Greek architecture is international. Head to the description below if you want some more ideas on your next trip to Greece. Have a good day and hope to see you in Greece soon.